They say they are refugees, but it's only men, like in Pakistan. The Pakistanis that are here, Bangladeshis, it's only men. He said, but if you are refugees, where are your women? Where are your children? You left children behind. You must be a horrible, horrible individual. You leave your children and you say you are running from war. You leave your child in a war. People can deny it all they can. There is a South African look. There is a Zimbabwean look. Even us South Africans, there is a typical Zulu look. There's a typical Musutu look. We know each other. Even when we speak, we know each other. And people, they often use this intellectualism and says, how can you know it? Okay. I mean, I go to Joburg. I can tell these are Zimbabweans before I even talk to them. Even their features, Zimbabweans, they look different from Congolese. You know, there's a, I don't want to go there. You South Africans, you think that you're special. And we are special. Because we're special because, I mean, South Africa is not Zimbabwe. I mean, Hillbrow, you can check Hillbrow. Hillbrow to us is dilapidated, but it's still better than Lagos. There are women who are promiscuous. Let's say maybe women from Lesotho. Some, they are known to be promiscuous, but they are calm.
I have been robbed twice, 3 times. One at gunpoint.
By other foreigners?
No, by South Africans. And they were speaking in Zulu.
No,
but
Zimbabweans, they also speak in Zulu, and most people they say, like celebrities, South African celebrities, they'll say, no, all rappers were South Africans, because they don't want to endorse the other side. But now, follow up. So if foreigners think that South Africa is so dangerous and unsafe, why can't they go? Why can't they go? Because it's not safe for you here, guys. I don't have a king. I'm a king of myself.
Okay.
I don't have a king. I hear people say, "Goes Misizulu," and some of these kings and chiefs, they're idiots. Away. Sanibonani Makaya. This is Ike. Life with Ike. You're chilling with me. For the first time, people are gonna see my head. I've been hiding this hairstyle because it's a transitional hairstyle. I'm supposed to feel confident with it because I'm beauty conscious. I like looking good, and I hope it does, look better, in camera. But I'm wearing a cap and pinning the hoodie for a reason. And today I have a special guest from the DRC, Congo, Baba. Congo. Is it Congo Brazzaville?
It's Congo Kinshasa.
Congo Kinshasa. Yeah, DRC, and as well as I am labeled or termed Mr. Xenophobia. People say I'm the most xenophobic person in South Africa, of which I differ, and I, greatly disagree with that. And I'm just standing up for South Africans. We've lived with foreigners in the 1800s, 1900s, the discovery of gold. So, it was all cozy until, 1994, it all started, And remember back in the days, we South Africans, we used to admire people from outside South Africa, from Nigeria, because we used to envy them. They were liberated before we were liberated. But we didn't know, that most of them, some of them, they left to a free country to go to an apartheid country, live there. And I always ask myself, how can you, from Zimbabwe, and then you come, to live in a, oppressive, system like South Africa. But yeah, here we are. And he will introduce himself and as to why he's here, that's another question which he still must answer. Why is he here? What is it about South Africa? Because you've seen in the past, majority of the people, they're coming here, and some they're claiming to be refugees, but they are fake refugees. I call them fake refugees. They're coming here, they jump all the countries, they say, no, asylum. We told them 54, as I came here with student visa. I'm a student. A Hillbrow is selling drugs, selling cell phones, and driving a Range Rover. I say, there is no way, doc, that you can be selling, or fixing phones. And the next thing, you're driving a Range Rover in M4. Majority of the people who are here, they are not refugees. Many of them. And now they've changed the terms, economic refugees. For the first time, it starts here in South Africa, economic refugees, and yeah. I see opportunism, at best, But yeah, you'll explain why he's here.
Okay, bro. So we've been persecuted on these streets. you've become a bit of a online celebrity. The people listen to your voice.
I refuse that. I refuse to be a celebrity. The term celebrity, look, even during my modeling days, like, I refuse the term celebrity. You know what is a celebrity? It's just that most people, someone who just come do one advert on TV or just want to do my piano song and become a celebrity. For me, a celebrity, I believe it's someone who's celebrated. You've got to have celebrants. The people who like you, they are your celebrants. And for you to be a brand or celebrity, you must stand head and shoulders above your peers, but we confuse somebody who's popular and a celebrity. There's someone who's playing soccer viewed by millions. That person is popular, is doing his job. But the moment you start doing it better than your peers, then you're celebrated, you become a celebrity. Or a superstar, something like that. Not everything that is in the media, it becomes a celebrity. Some other people, we don't celebrate them. They're innocent. Yeah, as I was talking about celebrities, it goes, with fame. There are people who are famous and infamous. But all in all, I don't want to be known as a celebrity. I'm just Ike, and I don't believe in titles. I'm just Ike. And I know that most people, it confuses them with where to place me. I'm just Ike. I'm a Kasi boy through and through, and I love that way.
Okay.
And tell us why you're here and who are you in South Africa?
So I'm just Mike. I'm just Mike from the Congo, and we came here with our father. Late 80s, he was employed by the South African government. There's a shortage of medical staff. So he was a doctor working out of the DRC. So he came here in the late 80s, and Tina, we followed him early 90s. So we've grown up here ever since. So despite you not wanting to accept or assume this title of celebrity, still your words have impact, and it's not uncommon to meet someone who shares similar sentiments and who will say that foreigners are a problem. Remember, the common man on the street doesn't differentiate. They will just give me an overall synopsis of what Ike had said as the advocate, because they see you as the authority figure. So my point to you now is, I will ask, why is it, are you against foreigners? Are you xenophobic? Or is it just the low value foreigners that you have issue against versus those that bring skills and investment to the country?
Look, I don't have a problem with foreigners. South Africans, they've welcomed foreigners. Back in the days, even Indians, when they came here, they understood why they came here. People in the mines. Remember, South Africans didn't want to work in the mines. They didn't want to work in the sugarcane fields because they regarded, those farms as theirs, where they were removed, in the mine fields. And then they brought in foreigners. Many of them, they were under British Empire by force. The same way as white people from Europe. They came here as forced labor. They did not just volunteer and say, I want to go to a dark continent. Those days were known as a dark continent. The Dutch East India Company was them taking them. They were criminalizing the youth of Europe, taking them to Voyager trips, Australia, America. So white people who came here under forced labor, but working for the crown, prince or king, but under these companies, because the companies in Europe, they had the finances. They had captured the royal families, the Spanish royal family, Portuguese, British, something like that. But here in South Africa, foreigners who are coming here, in the main, they are not what we desire. Because 1990, when Mandela was released, we said, okay, these are our brothers, they will come here and show us how it is done, how to govern. But little did we know that we were going to start attracting criminals, hobos, grandmothers and grandfathers and cripples and everyone coming here to take advantage, of our healthcare, everything, jobs, school. And you say, man, it can't be. So that is the problem that we have. And some of the people who are coming here, you find that, they came here legally, but do you really need, skills such as a TV presenter? Somebody will come here and say, I'm a TV presenter. For me, I believe that if you come here, you're playing soccer, You must play it better than Dr. Khumalo. You must be at the level of Mbappe. You know, at that level of Yabo, JJ Okocha. Don't come here and be ordinary. You know, even in jail, you know, when you go to jail, back was good, you know, was a nine, in fact. What are you bringing from the outside? So, majority of the people who came here, then you realize with no man, you're competing for the same things. And South Africans, they don't go, you know, into other countries and take certain, you know, I don't know, protected jobs from protected industries. Yeah, like here in South Africa, it is quite normal now in the, you know, local municipality, you find lots of Zimbabweans in government, actually everywhere. I wouldn't be surprised if the next president, maybe in 10 years or 15, is a Nigerian. And God save us all. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying. I see some of your points are valid, but I'll ask you this. I was having a chat with a friend recently, or an acquaintance, let's call it an acquaintance. And I was saying, she was South African, so I said to her, listen, is it not awkward when you finally have to introduce to your family a potential partner, for example, and you have to bring in he's a foreigner and whatnot. So I was saying to her, how do your family respond to that, first of all, and does the xenophobia question not come into it? Before I'd even finished that sentence, the word xenophobia, she said to me, hold on, let's call it what it is. It's Afrophobia, not xenophobia. What do you say to that? Because I feel like, you're talking about black foreigners, but now you generalize.
Those are South Africans who are trying to be smart in academia and so, you know, it's Afrophobia. That is nonsense.
But don't you feel like you speak to Congolese people from...
No.
You don't feel like it's about the black folks?
And I hate it when they do that, because they also like to bring the whataboutism. What about white people? Listen, let's say white people are killing us. Does it justify with then my brother must also come and kill me? And then when I'm saying my brother is killing me, they say, what about white people? So if a foreigner, let's say a Dutch foreigner, is, you know, coming here and rape my sister, does it mean that my brother, my cousin from Zimbabwe must also come and do the same? When I'm complaining and saying, yeah, but you know, what about these white people? So South Africans, they welcome foreigners. I mean, around 1990-94, we loved Cameroon. Cameroon was there playing World Cup. We embraced them because we are not there. That's why people like Pelé, you know, in Brazil, they were celebrities. You know, Americans, we look up to them because they represented us, Kuma Olympics. We were all excited when Cameroon beat Argentina, 1990, Italia 90. We were all excited when Nigerian team, the Super Eagles, you know, they were demolishing these European teams. And we thought that, you know, these are our people, you know, but when we started to open our borders, they showed us flames. They showed us their true colors. They're coming here. I mean, building hijacking, we didn't know that there's a crime called building hijackings. And a prostitution, these are things that, you know, South Africans didn't do. If they were happening in small scale. You know, right now we've got people now selling, you know, openly on social media, selling bodies. So we never, you know, we're never into those kind of crimes like we've seen now in CBD. So rightfully so, South Africans have got the right to say, you know what, no man, these people who are coming here, they're coming with nonsense, of which many foreigners, especially guys. And it is very interesting because when they come here, they say they are refugees, but it's only men, like in Pakistan. The Pakistanis that are here, Bangladesh, it's only men. He said, but if you are refugees, where are your women? Where are your children? You left children behind. You must be a horrible, horrible individual. You leave your children and you say you are running from war. You leave your child in a war. So that is that. They marry South Africans for a passport. Majority of the people who came here, they don't love South Africans, especially Nigerians. They subject them to banking fraud, they use their IDs, and then after they've gained the citizenship, they dump them, you know, in the main, or subject them, you know, to a life of drugs, prostitution. You know, I met one Uber guy. He said, I hate this job, because he went to fetch someone. He says, no, this lady called him. When he got there, you know, this woman is fighting with the husband. The husband is Nigerian. The lady is South African. And this woman is saying, no, this guy, he wants me to, you know, offer sex to his friends and other clients for a fee. He says, no, you know, I'm not a prostitute. But this man was, you know, forcing this woman to sell, her body. And what type of a man is that? We don't know, that culture. And we know that, as a man, you're a provider, you must lead. But unfortunately here, most foreigners, they follow the woman. You say, no, but the Mkwenyana can't live, Kabumakoti. What type of Mkwenyana? It's not our culture that if you marry a woman, you take that woman to your home, go with her to Nigeria. But when it's the other way around, they come here. How many women have been arrested in Brazil because someone, from Nigeria came here and it's Ugu. They only know the name is Ugu, and that guy is not Ugu. Sometimes it's Uche, it's Richard, and they cannot pinpoint this guy.
But there are social ills also in South Africa.
Yes.
So as much as you say that these are crimes that were introduced predominantly by foreigners, South Africa had its own social ills. And it's not really about contrasting the two, and it's not a whataboutism, but it's to say that do you think it's a majority of foreigners that are committing?
So as foreigners, you must come here and add.
No, that's unacceptable. But do you feel that
when I accommodate you in my house
and you're committing,
you find my child stealing sugar, and when you steal my own salary, I spend money. You say no, but you also have social ills. Your children are stealing sugar. No, South Africans, there are certain crimes that they do. Remember, South Africans are unique in this way. All tribes in South Africa, be it Xhosa, Zulu, Pedi, Ndebele, they share the same thing. The culture is the same. When the child is 1 year old, they do a certain rituals, and there are certain things that you don't know. Like we don't eat dogs, like some regions in Nigeria. There are certain things. Human trafficking is kind of strange, but. You've seen Nigerians, even sometimes you see documentaries and say, I've been sold, to France to come sell the body by my family in Nigeria. We have that thing of Ubuntu. Ubuntu started here in the main. I know that other people will claim it from somewhere, but there's that thing that about, you are somebody's child. But the people who are coming here, I don't know whether it's because maybe South Africa is not their country. They see it as an industry, which, we are here to loot and loot and loot. They don't embrace it like us. So us who grew up here, we grew up under apartheid, most of us. And apartheid administrators, they were Christians. Even though, sometimes, or, at times did horrible things. But they were Christians. And they enforced certain values. And we abide by those values. And those values, they did not differ much from our customs. This is somebody's child. Be kind, be nice, don't do bad to the next person. We continue. But when people are coming here, check the statistics. I remember the MEC of police, I think it was Faith Mazibu. She said, the crimes that are happening in Johannesburg, when a person has been slit, the throat, they know that it's Zimbabweans. They've shed themselves. Fake products, goods and beverages, you'll find Ethiopians, Somalis, Bangladeshis. Bouncing crime, at night. You find the Cyprus mafia, you find the Israeli mafia, you find Nigerians. It's like they've subdivided themselves. Prostitution, you'll find Nigerians. Certain kind of drugs, that you'll find these type of foreigners. And South Africans are saying, you know what? We've never had a Tswana mafia, there's Bread mafia, there's Pakistani mafia. We've never had a Zulu mafia. We've never had a Pedi mafia. It's like we had our own problems. We like to tease each other. But it ends there.
Okay. So you said something interesting about Ubuntu and how that was the sort of the guiding principle for most South Africans.
Yeah, Ubuntu.
Yeah. So based on that alone, don't you think that
I know where you're gonna go.
Your messaging now is contradictory to that?
I know,
because
then you must extend Ubuntu to criminals.
No, not to criminals. First of all, would you say that the majority
this must benefit foreigners?
No, the ones who are deserving of it, because we all originate from Africa. We all come from the center of Africa, and where
do you take that we all come from Africa? No, I've heard
this is what the scientists tell us.
No.
Could be wrong, but
I've heard that we all come from Congo.
So where's the Ubuntu? Where's the Ubuntu now?
We are here. The Khoisans were here. The Xhosa speaking were here. I guess there's a kernel of humankind here.
Fair. Yeah. But where's the Ubuntu now, bro?
There's only Ubuntu doesn't mean that you must be a bunch of 100 years and keep quiet when your sister is being raped. Ubuntu says,
but we're not all raping.
No. I'm saying Ubuntu determines, how you're gonna act out when you're being attacked, when you're being invaded.
Okay.
This it's happening now. It's an invasion, but it's a Trojan horse. People are coming here as refugees, and they're not refugees. And when they come here, I've heard even Zimbabweans, they said, you South Africans go to Zimbabwe, Tina, we live here. I can tell you one thing. Majority of foreigners, if South Africans were to disappear, they will celebrate. Legal and non-legal. They will celebrate because, you remember, our struggle, how we resolved our problems, it was through negotiations. And we never destroyed the country. And there is a number of many white people who are in South Africa. They've created the infrastructure, for themselves. And they also catered for townships, and they never destroyed it. Unlike other countries where maybe the French were there, they destroyed the infrastructure, the railways and all that. You had to start afresh. So people used to look at us with envy. I've seen it even when we played soccer with these teams.
You mean other African countries?
Yeah, they'll say, you think that you're white. You South Africans, you think that you're special. And we are special. Because we're special because, South Africa is not Zimbabwe. Now, Hillbrow, you can check Hillbrow. Hillbrow to us is dilapidated. But it's still better than Lagos. Maybe now, because the ANC, they own a mission to make us look like any African state. They are succeeding in that, They are killing this country. But before that, you'll go to Pretoria, you'll go to Klerksdorp, you'll go to Durban. It was like, fine, there were no potholes, smooth hotels. That's why we could not treat these guys, ill-treating us when we're playing soccer with them. Remember, South Africans will be given, hotels that are dodgy when they're playing soccer that side. And with us, we're saying, how can we retaliate? We couldn't. Because we didn't have dodgy hotels where to take these guys. And when they come here, they had options. They said, no, we need to go to 5-star, 3-star, and our stadiums, everything, the infrastructure, telecommunications, banking. In Nigerians, they still bank under the mattress. There's so many Nigerians who are coming to, many foreigners, especially from Nigeria, and they cannot track down their qualifications. Many of them, they've got fake degrees.
But you saying that the banking under the mattress is because of their tradition from home, or because the
South Africa is civilizing. Even Mozambique, there are certain things that did not exist. Certain companies that did not exist. In other African countries, I've got friends who are into East Africa, Nedbank, retails and all that, which is good. Because we want to develop the whole continent. But I'm saying that we introduce them to so many things, and they are not thankful. And when they looked at us, and say, these guys, they think that they are smart. Boy, MTN, many multinationals, Nigeria, they'll tell you about Shell and BP, all these things, they don't own them. They're stealing petrol, but they've got oil. So those are the things that we are not happy about as South Africans. Because if you come here, come and contribute things that we don't have or where there is a shortage. But don't come here and add to our problems.
But do you think most foreigners are adding to the problem? If you were to give us a percentage, how much would you say?
Recently they said there are more foreigners now in jail, more than South Africans. If there will be 500 prisoners, 400 will be foreigners. Imagine.
Okay, that's unacceptable.
And the foreigners are now more than South Africans. And even if they are not more, even if they are 10%, is 10% too much? Even if it's 20%, it will be more per their number. That they are here.
Proportion.
Yeah, for the proportion of,
foreigners.
But the numbers that they have.
Here's another point you were making. You said most of the social ills that foreigners introduced didn't exist in South Africa, or they weren't as prominent.
If they existed, like prostitution, because of our culture, because of our norms, it was scandalous. It was a shame. Now it's in the open because, they've made it fashionable, including these politicians who are corrupt. And in the past, you wouldn't be a prostitute and you are known that you are selling a body. Drugs. How I make this differentiation, pre-94 and post-94. Even farm killings itself. Majority of the farm murders are committed by Zimbabweans, Mozambicans, people who've killed them in their own countries. remember, with us South Africans who lived during apartheid, we had maybe a motivation to kill farmers, but we didn't because we believed in human life. But the people who had brutal struggles, Mau Mau, you know, in Zimbabwe, Mozambique, where they expelled Portuguese, you know, brutally so.
Okay, so my point
They are
was...
repeating that now. They are following them now, and they are in proximity with them now because majority of the foreigners who are working in farms, or majority of the workers in farms, are foreigners because of cheap labor, lots of reasons. Because South Africa, it's a country now, it's divided along racial lines.
Okay.
You know, and some, you know, companies, they find it easy to employ foreigners.
Than
You
South
know,
Africans.
yeah, than South Africans, because as a South African, I want a living wage because I live here, and most Zimbabweans, they take no money, you know, no packages, no medical aid. You know, like in your opportunities, you keep me no money, Hotman.
Okay, so here's my point. So you were saying what you had back then was just you guys would tease each other and make fun.
Yeah, we'll tease
And I
each
know
other.
these
But
things.
yeah,
That's the example. But okay. That's the example I was
We're teasing each other and it didn't lead to a war. Like at school. Like,
No, but now that same mentality is being almost weaponized because I'll give you a short story. We studied with Tito Mbowene's son at Wits, and he was a very dark guy, very
Yeah.
dark and dreadlocks. He was in a taxi from Sandton to Alex, or the other way around, I don't know. They did a random check. The police opened up, they said, everyone out. They saw him, they said, you're a foreigner. You're a foreigner, we're taking you
And
in.
then what does that mean?
No, it means they looked at his appearance because he's a dark-skinned man, and it's gone from teasing to profiling.
I've been
now.
stopped many times, people asking for my ID. It's
No,
even better now. I
but
remember
he was brutalized,
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
took him in and all this stuff because it went from something that was laughable that we laughed about to profiling and going. He looks. It's like phobia thing again.
you don't make up
think so?
rules based on exceptions. You can't take
No,
one
but
case
that's the norm
you
to
can't take
everyone.
one case out of a million. And let me tell you something. Okay, let me
Tell him
you.
about.
No, it's fine. It's fine. And I'm a police officer, and you know, I'm searching random, you know, check and search. What do I do? You don't have a passport. And remember, people can deny it all they can. There is a South African look. There is a Zimbabwean look. Even us South
So how
Africans.
did that police
No,
officer
let
get
me
it
tell
wrong?
you.
How did he get
Let
it
me
wrong?
tell once in a while, you know, even during the era of death penalty, sometimes, you know, there are people maybe, you know, who are not guilty, who are killed once in a while. But I can tell you, even us South Africans, there's a typical Zulu look. There's a typical Musutu look. We know each other. Even when we speak, we know each other. And people, they often use this intellectualism and says, how can you know him? I mean, I go to Joburg, I can tell these are Zimbabweans before I even talk to them. Even their features, Zimbabweans, they look different from Congolese. You know, there's I don't want to go there, but I normally say South African women are the most beautifulest in the world.
I agree.
They are the most beautifulest in the world. You know why? You know why? Because of diversity. There's a Venda beauty, there's a Tswana beauty, there's a Pedi beauty. They don't look the same. There's colored beauty, even colored here, they don't look the same. There's a Latino colored, there's a Philippine colored, there's African colored. Even white people here in South Africa, they've got calves, they've got a bottle of Coca-Cola.
They're not like Europeans.
Yeah, but in other countries, you find all the Shonas, they look the same. All the Ndebeles. In Zimbabwe, I can only go to the Ndebele side. But anyway, that's a story from Nairima and I am not going there. You know, other countries like Cape Verde, like Ethiopia. Ethiopian women are beautiful, but they all look the same. If you've seen one,
Yes.
you've seen them all.
Homogeneous.
Yeah, you know, if you go to Morocco, they all look the same. You know, but here in South Africa, we are a mixture.
That's the only thing I
But-
agree on. The rest,
Yeah, but I can tell you, a Nigerian, I can see a Nigerian, and some food is giving, you know, I look at the head, dog, come on, I know you, you know.
Okay, so
we know each other. So as a police, there are certain things that you look at. Even in UK, there was a case, you know, where they were saying guys who are going to UK or claiming to be South Africans, they ask questions in Afrikaans and say, what is your name? And you find, look, this guy is from Zimbabwe. It's like, what's your name? It says, They say, no, you are not a South African. They say, but somebody
idea.
can see. Even here, you call a person, there's another guy, he says it's Mteto. I said, hey, Nyambos. He said, huh? We know our clan names. I said, Nyambos, I knew that, no, this one is not a South African. So we know each other. So as a police officer, there are certain things, basic check, things that you start with. It's okay, prove this. What is this?
How much of South African historical context influenced the way you now receive or perceive foreigners? Because with the way things happen with apartheid, I'm not surprised that South Africans are quite closed off to people coming into the country. How much of an influence do you think that has on people's sentiment towards foreigners?
No.
Because I think there's a big.
No. People have this thing with the South Africans are narrow-minded. Remember, we had TV before you. So we had radios before you guys. So we were so clued up. Tina, we know which Bob Marley just died. No, not about DRC Zimbabwe. You know after 2 years.
We had TV.
You know after
I remember I was 5.
You'll find out after 2 years.
We had color TV,
When was that? You're here in South Africa.
No, at home in Congo.
It's only Mabuto Saseko in the TV. So, but anyway, South Africans, they were welcoming. As I said earlier on, most foreigners who came here, they were brought in here. Abu Banda, they were working in hotels, guys from Malawi. Because remember, we're all governed by one empire, British Empire. That's why we're going to Malawi, British Empire. So they could just move labor from one country to the other. Which, you South Africans are still doing, you don't want to work. They bring people from Zimbabwe, Lesotho, Botswana land. So we accepted that. But okay, people are here. And then there's a term called Mabusbali. That's why we call them Mabusbali, because some of them, they remained here. They married our sisters. When they got liberation, as countries were liberated from, the empire. So some they went back, some they never, left. And there were teams in all the townships, under apartheid administration. They were owned, most of those teams by guys from Malawi, Lesotho, Zimbabwe. We used to call them Abogres. There would be this guy, speaking Zulu or Sotho in a funny way, but this guy, he'll be the one, behind these soccer teams, nurturing these young boys. So we welcome those people, like that. And we're never like, these xenophobic people. That's why we could admire Bo Peter Ndlovu. When you saw them playing for Coventry City, Udo is one of us, But the problem started 1994. When you open up our borders, even earlier than that, everybody at the same time came here. And remember, us, we're still, impoverished. We wanted to find our space. We wanted to find ourselves. And these people, when they come here, they place themselves in advantageous positions. Remember, they have seen liberation where they come from. It's the same as the ANC. Majority of the people here in South Africa, they didn't aspire to work for municipality, to work in government offices, because we are fighting the government of the day. But the people who are coming from exile, they've seen this thing in Tanzania, that after a while you can change the system and bring tenders. We knew that if you're working for a state, you're working there, you'll die there, get your pension there. This thing is not privatized, state owned. But when they've seen corruption in other African countries. So most foreigners, when they came, they placed themselves in advantageous positions because they know after freedom or voting, what comes next. So they were a step ahead. That's why one ex of mine, she asked me, she's from East Europe. She said, how come South Africans are not in town? I put context, it's from Eastern Europe, she doesn't understand politics. She says, you people, your South Africans, blacks, are not in town, but foreigners are occupying major buildings.
Okay, so that's my follow-up point, is how much of xenophobia is actually driven by socio-economic factors. So for example, I look around, if you sat inside or anywhere north of Joburg,
yes,
xenophobia is almost unheard of. But once you start getting to Well, Yeovil is central, I guess. If you look at Yeovil, Hillbrow, Alex is north, but you know, it's just the annex to Sandton, if you want to call it that. Those are the places where residents are already in a bind, and then you want to add foreigners. So I find that those are the places where the
the poor foreigners, they don't go to live.
So it's a socio-economic
You cannot
issue.
distance social. Social is politics. Politics is about food on the table and also access to resources. These foreigners, they're not going to Julius Malema's house. Julius Malema will say, you know, open borders, but you could never open his house and say, oh, you know, come one, come all. They go to Alexander. They open up squatter camps. But what I like now is that majority of the illegal foreigners, they go live in the affluent areas, create squatter camps there. In the past, they used to push them to the townships. They're in Midrand. Open space, they see an open space next to fleshy houses. And I wish they could create more squatter camps next to Steyn City. You know, these houses, you know, where these politicians hide themselves, the corporates, because it is the corporates who encourage these policies, you know, of hiring illegal foreigners in mining. They've collapsed the mining industry, and now they're using Zamazamas, you know, taking this gold from Zamazamas, the Zamazamas that you don't have to account for, even if they die in mines. As compared to if Ike is working at the mine, when I die, you know, my family is going to go to Anglo, whatever, and say, hey, we've got, you know, our father was working here, we want his monies, you know, and then they'll start querying about, you know, occupational hazards and all those things. But you can't account for a Zamazama. Who's buying this gold? Because it ends up, you know, in the hands of these, you know, multinationals. So that's why we've seen them, you know, mushrooming. So these guys, they're competing with the poor. They want the same thing, you know. And imagine a foreigner who lives in a squatter camp, maybe in Alexander, compared to a Sowetan. There's a better school somewhere in Sandton. You know who they're going to accept first? A foreigner who comes from Nigeria. He's going to access that school maybe in Randburg because of the address, close proximity. When I'm from Diepkloof, they say, no, you can't. You go to your nearest like schools, you know. And then somebody's looking and saying, but he's from Nigeria. But I'm from Soweto, I'm close. And they say, no, we want an address. It's already, you know, what's in Ngeskas, we're showing a first man on the board. Hospitals, the same thing. In Hillbrow, foreigners, you know, they will be there first. In Johannesburg Hospital, they'll be there first. You know, buildings, you know, they occupy these buildings first, you know, in the CBDs. And our laws made it worse. Because our laws said, you know, people, if they don't pay rent and all that, you need to evict them legally. And there is an Illegal Evictions Act, Prevention of Illegal Evictions Act. It was made for South Africans to prevent situations like Sophia Town, you know, Umkumbane, that people should not be forcefully evicted. But foreigners are using that law to say, you know what, I'm here in the building, I can't afford to pay rent, I've got kids, you must go to court. And it take you years to see the judge in court. And in the meantime, some, they refuse to pay rent. They form these corporates. And that's how they hijack buildings. So our laws are eating us.
So that example that you gave of Zamazamas and how they're being used by either political forces or by leadership to do the dirty work for them. That's just one example, but I also find that, don't you think, with politics especially, the narrative of Mabaham can be a way of pulling in that follower, the follower count. They want people to vote, so they'll skew statistics or figures to have that little margin of people join them and to boost their numbers.
The message of Mabahame makes sense, but unfortunately those people who are preaching Mabahame, they don't even mean it. They just want votes. But you remember even Adolf Hitler, when he came up, he came up because there was a need. People, he saw, you know what, we are struggling, we are suffering, so there was a vacuum, he filled it. And majority of those people who are talking Mabahame, they don't mean it. But on the ground, people can see, you know what, we are being displaced, we are being replaced here in South Africa. Tell me, if a political party comes, they've got a manifesto, maybe they've got 5 needs. They say, education, we'll provide you with education, health, houses, jobs, you know, and what else? You know, recreation. All of these things foreigners, they come and take them first. You know, if it's jobs, Zimbabweans, they come and take them first. Because Zimbabweans, they know my. I mean, I come and say, you know what, I deserve 2,000. I went to school for this and I've got a family here. And the Zimbabwean says, you know what, I'll take half. There were reports where they're saying Zimbabweans in some restaurants and car manufacturing, they were going there and say, employ me, I'm Zimbabwean. You know, because the bosses knew, okay, I can exploit these ones. You know, and some of them, they're illegal. They can't even go to CCMA. They are scared. And then they come. ARVs, you go to the hospital. In the past, you go to Baragwanath. Any hospital in South Africa, you'll see an orthopedic the same day. Today, you can't. Because in front of you, there'll be people who are coming from Swaziland. I've been to Steve Biko Hospital. There's a bus, not only one. Bus is coming from Zambia. People brought in here. People coming from, you know, Zimbabwe to Johannesburg, Park Station, straight to Coronation. And then people saying, you know what, the neighbors here no longer, you know, have access. You cannot find a bed. People queuing, you know, for the next day, medication. And South Africans are, you know, disadvantaged. So, of course, they will complain. That doesn't happen in the main, in the first world countries here in South Africa, the suburbs, because there you need money. South Africa is the first world country and the third world country at the same time, because there you need, you know, you need to have money to access, you know, all those things. But in the main, you're overburdening the poor masses. Check your EFF. They're preaching open borders. Even the ANC, even DA. DA, I know why it was established. You know, the mine owners, you know, it benefits them, you know, because they want to create this country to be like China. They want a Cecil John Rhodes open border policy. You know, if you advertise a job, like it happened in Nigeria. In Nigeria, when checkers went there, they advertised 400 jobs for a teller. 5 billion people applied. What rights do you have after that? It's going to be like China. If you are sick, you take sick leave, tomorrow when you come back, you've got a replacement. They want to create a sweatshop, you know, where if they advertise a job, they know that, you know, someone can apply for Malawi, you know, and then for less. Check the institutions now, what is happening. Zimbabweans, they came to UNISA, Zimbabwe, they're employing each other.
Factual or...
Go to UNISA, you find the lecturers. I've seen that, even myself. I went there. I was surprised because some of the guys that I know, you know, I registered for a PhD. I registered inside. I didn't have a course supervisor. And I look at, you know, other foreigners. And even the topics that they were doing, they're stupid topics. You know, sometimes you find a person doing a stupid topic. You say, how can you do a PhD on this subject? What problem are you solving? They've got course supervisors. I said, fine, I'll bring a course supervisor of my own. I'll pay this guy. They still refuse me. The person who marked my master's paper was a foreigner. And he made me repeat that thing because... What other reasons?
He's a hater. Okay, hold on.
No,
I'm noticing a pattern. Can I tell you the pattern I'm noticing?
What is the pattern?
You mention Nigerians and Zimbabweans a lot. And I want to question you, is it a cultural and social issue perhaps that there's a clash between their norms versus South Africans?
No.
And also, is that what maybe is leading to these tensions?
No. It's just that with Zimbabweans, I don't know, man. Zimbabweans and mad, they're synonymous. They're criminals, they kill. And they steal minor things like cell phones. South African criminals, I'll tell you one thing. You know crime in South Africa? There was crime, you know, but it has levels. You start with, you know, maybe a petty, you know, thief. You graduate, maybe you're into cars, you graduate from the cars, you go to heist. And even the tools that you use, even the, you know, the brutality, you know. I mean, with Zimbabwean criminals, the brutality that they use to steal a cell phone is the brutality that, you know,
it's unwarranted.
It's equivalent to cash in transit. Even the planning, you know, They put, man, come on. There are certain crimes that you do at a certain age. At my age, I cannot be snatching cell phones. I cannot be stealing cars at my age. Imagine I'm stealing a car for a 20-year-old girl from Wits. Imagine he finds me and says, Daddy, what are you doing? But Zimbabweans, because of desperation,
They'll do.
Nigerians, because of desperation, and they'll even use, South African girls as drug mule. Lesotho nationals, normally they're into mining. Normally they're into scrap metals, stuff like that, and, they'll sell their gold and all that. Mozambicans, they're into car thieves the most. Go to, Mozambique, Maputo, even Zimbabweans do that. That's why I'm saying foreigners, when they come here, it's like they've got this consensus, which you don't come to our terrain. I think they do, because I remember there was a bread mafia. The other guys were delivering bread, and then they were fighting each other like spaza shops. There's many South Africans who've been killed because they operated a spaza shop within a certain area, and they complained. They says the Ethiopians were here. These guys from Bangladesh, they says, no, I must close my spaza shop. So that is the problem that we are having. Nigerians, they've got a huge population in Nigeria. I mean, over 200 million. Is it 280?
That's a lot.
Yeah.
1 in 5 Africans.
Yeah, they tell you that 100 million Nigerians, they live below poverty. So imagine if 10 million of Nigerians, or maybe 20, it's a minimum to them, came to South Africa. Half of Zimbabwe is here. Maybe 7 million is here. Mozambique is here. Lesotho is here. We become a minority as a South African. So in 50 years' time, the country is gone, the culture is gone, the dynamic. I understand that, culture fuses other culture, but that needs to be, done in orderly. It cannot be imposed, like in Europe, as they are complaining that. In Britain now, some cities are now, it's like Pakistan, and in no time there'll be Sharia law. And women will be told, cover yourself up to here. You must, cover yourself, and long dresses like, you're Muhammad's wife. So those are things that we are opposed to, and say, what, our culture has been eroded. I can tell you, the way things are continuing, if ANC is still in power, soon, in Sentin, it's going to be like Marabastad. You're going to see Pakistani spaza shops in Sentin. The way it's going, Sentin, Baba, it was the richest square mile. I don't know whether it's still the richest square mile. Today you find, you go that side of Benmore Gardens, you find Nigerians, pubs and all that. And Nigerians have got this culture. Whenever they come to a neighborhood, they are noisy. Before you know it, their cars, there's music, and white people sing, ooh, they're making noise.
Hold on, brother.
And they're running away.
But we're focusing on the bad only. I feel like we're focusing on the criminals. We're focusing on the
there's more
on the negatives.
Yes, I'll focus on the bad, because
so the impact of that.
No, why I'm focusing on the bad. The good ones are quiet when their brothers are violating us. I've never seen the good foreigners standing up.
No, I would report someone. I would report a foreigner.
Where have you seen foreigners coming and say, hey, Nanya Mosha? They're always defending each other.
No, I don't defend.
No.
When I see what Congolese people have done to Yeovil sometimes, no, you have to call them out. Guys, clean up.
But I'm saying,
I'm not quiet.
No, we are talking about yourself. I'm talking in general. I've never seen organizations. Each time you see Africa diaspora, South Africa, tries to do something to protect its own people. Yeah, you're xenophobic. But they never say, what? These guys somewhere, they've got a point. Look at what is happening. There are people who are being spiked their drinks. We don't know that. That's criminal.
But that's a percentage. What happens to the other majority who are now victims of xenophobia? Because of the few rotten apples.
Who are victims of xenophobia in South Africa? There's this thing that
the clean image guys.
The last time Cyril Ramaphosa went to Nigeria to apologize, for 20 people, let's say maybe for 10 deaths or 20, 2 would be maybe a Nigerian and a Congolese. And then they'll be saying xenophobia, but you're saying there are more South Africans who died. Even in Pretoria, how it started. That taxi guy was shot because a foreigner was selling drugs to a school kid. He says, but you can't do that. And then he shot this taxi guy. Then it started. And then South Africans, they died in numbers. Cyril Ramaphosa went to Nigeria because now these guys, they were saying he was xenophobic because he's protecting his business interests there. Shanduga, they've got MTN. These guys are rioting in Nigeria because they're putting us under pressure. And over people that they also don't want in their own countries. They wouldn't take them back. Even if you can take all Nigerians or Zimbabweans and say, take them, they wouldn't want to take them back.
All of them or the portion of them?
They want them here because these guys, when they are voted in their own countries, they say go to South Africa, for social services and employment and grants. Majority of them now, they've got South African IDs, they're getting grants. In Zimbabwe, kukile. When you're old, no pension, no whatever, you are messed up. They say go to South Africa. I mean, Malawi, I was talking to Cyril Ramaphosa and they said, please, can you allow our people to come here, have a special dispensation like in Zimbabweans and Lesotho nationals? Why would your people vote you into office? And then you go and negotiate with South Africa and say, South Africa, please, can you take my people for employment? And Malawi used to do that even during the era of Foster, during apartheid in the 70s. Foster even said, if we're to close down the labor from Malawi and Lesotho, those countries will collapse. It's a country dependent on donations. Sometimes Africans, they never cease to amaze me. And we are becoming like that now in South Africa. We're becoming a country, dependent on IMF donations.
But Brian, why can't we also look, for example, at the economic contributions of foreigners?
What contribution?
People who start businesses here.
What's wrong with starting businesses in the
No, but they're here now and they contribute. But you're focusing on the guy who's sitting close.
Why can't they start businesses in Malawi?
No, maybe they have a business there as well and they've expanded.
Who said they didn't have spaza shops?
No, they're bringing a different flavor.
Let me tell you something.
Why can't we also focus on that?
The term spaza shop?
What does it mean?
The spaza shop. When they say you're running your business like a spaza, it's an insult. Because spaza is slightly low, even though there's money there, and people were running spaza shops before. We were running soccer clubs. We had bus companies. There were black people who were running big bus companies. There were people who were running butcheries, cinemas. I'm not talking somewhere in DRC when you're watching Ali beating George Foreman at the school in a church, they covered the windows with a dark towel and you say, Pumaye. No, I'm talking movie theaters. movie theaters.
You're focusing on the negative.
No, I'm talking.
And now your followers, they watch, they go, I need
you must ask your father, where was he watching He was listening to a radio somewhere. Maybe they were.
He had a galaxy.
There were 500. There were 500 in the church.
Doing very well.
There was a radio here. There were 500 in the church. They say, Mahomet Ali is sitting in with the then he said, Pumaye.
But you're focusing on the negative.
TV.
Don't you think that you're focusing on the negative?
I saw George Foreman. Even at in a cinema, when George Foreman was beating Joe Fraser, the fight, I was in the movies, you saw him, 3 times falling.
But color TV in the 80s, he was not on the radio.
Color started here. And until now we got TV late compared to other European countries because the Afrikaners didn't want us to have TV because they said, no, it's going to influence us, political. And 75, there was a pilot project, 76, they said TV. But the movies were there. Now, my parents used to carry me. I was a child going to movies. I saw Samson and Delilah. I saw Samson, killing a lion. That's why I'd crash. I grabbed one kid. I wanted to kill him like a... Now I wanted to kill that kid.
But that's the Zulus. You guys
listen. I was in a crèche dominated by Sotos because where I come from, it's Soto section, so we're the only Zulus. So each time,
even your accent is Soto.
Each time when I'm complaining with him, man, hey, mistress, this one is beating me up. They say, no, go and fight. And then I went to fight. I grabbed this kid because I had seen Samson and Delilah. I was 3-4. He almost died. I saw the eyes going like that, But they couldn't beat me up because they said I must fight.
But do you think that Zulus are also generally less tolerant? Because these xenophobia outbreaks always begin with nowhere.
Let me tell you.
Is it a cultural or tribal thing with you guys? Because you're a Zulu man.
I'm no longer Zulu if I was. I don't.
Kumalo,
no, come on. I don't have a king. I'm a king of myself.
Okay.
I don't have a king. I hear people saying, "Oh, Mrs. Zulu," and some of these kings and chiefs, they're idiots. You look at the guy. I mean, I was saying to one guy. I work with lots of vendor-speaking people. I said they're very intelligent, but how do you have a king like Tony Mpepu? How do you have a king like Mrs. Zulu? I mean, look at the history of Mrs. Zulu. Is he fit to be a king? Well, now when you look at Mrs. Zulu, there's drug scandals, there's a lot. So, but anyway, yeah, so I'm no longer Zulu if I was Zulu. Maybe my parents were Zulu because I cannot control that thing. I cannot own it. You know, how do I become a king of the Zulus? It's a family thing there. I cannot, concern myself over a family stock fed. If there was a rotation, which, the Mabasos today, they are kings. Or next time we select, a king from the Mahlangu clan. But now it can't be one family, why, and all of us are bowing down. I'm not here to bow to another man. I bow down to no man. Even if you're a pope, or I don't bow to another man. Another mortal, no, it cannot be. So, yeah, but there are certain things, that are known. I don't know whether it's myth or reality. When they say Xhosas, they steal, they're crooks, Zulus are stubborn, they like to fight, Shanganes are like this. But, here comes the but.
What's the but?
The but. Sometimes they don't beat the allegations. Sometimes they don't beat it. Maybe, I don't know whether it will be the majority of them or, like I can tell you, like majority of the people or guys, they run away from Xhosa women. Even yourself, if you were coming, to introduce a woman and she's Xhosa, they'll be rambling and mumbling with her, Xhosa woman. Couldn't you get another one?
Why?
Yeah?
Why?
Because, I don't know whether it's innate or it's something because of the culture of the area. Remember, there are certain things that are influenced by culture of that area. Xhosa women, majority of them, they confuse, being street smart and promiscuity. To them, their street smartness has to do with promiscuity, how to double cross guys and all. And there'll be an area, like for example, in the Eastern Cape, there was a culture of boxing because of certain things that happened there. Maybe the seed was planted, and then there was a culture of boxing. In Soweto,
I disagree, Ike. I'm so sorry, right?
Yeah, you must disagree.
No, hold on. I disagree because that culture of women playing men is universal, or at least South Africa wide, right? Out of all the languages that, I've witnessed women, all of them, they love this thing of playing guys, promiscuity, don't phone me at this time, regardless of...
But let me tell you something. There are women who are promiscuous. Let's say maybe women from Lesotho. They're known to be promiscuous, but they are calm. They will double cross you in a calm way. Do you remember that? No social that. But the Xhosas, they're brazen, they're blunt, they're outspoken, they're loud, they're unapologetic. You'll never find a vendor or expressive like Xhosas. Even if she can be a crook, she'll never come. Like Xhosas speaking in the main, they're expressive, they're outspoken. Have
you never seen a petty woman that was expressive?
You never see a petty woman speaking like that. You've never seen now a vendor woman, a Ndebele woman. If you've seen one, it's an exception. But I don't know. I asked one Xhosa lady I used to date. I said, lento leno nifundisana nisabancane or nikhula nayo wathi yothi namaXhosa qhele. Smart.
This is a separate podcast. This is
and yes, when you spoke about that, the culture, there are certain things that will happen with Zimbabweans. There are certain things that will happen with Shonas. There are certain cultures that will happen with Nigerians. Nigerians, they are loud, they are pushing, intolerant, wherever they are. I remember they used to play soccer at Zoo Lake. They would occupy the whole grandstand and making noise. I came one day because I was hurtful. I came and I went inside. I greeted them. I said, Data. They kept quiet. I said, gentlemen, I'm greeting you. I said, Data. They said, how are you? How are you? I had a 9mm there in the car. So there was going to be a gunpowder, all over. But I greeted them, because I was pissed off. Because whenever they come, they must occupy colonized space and everybody chow. I'm telling you, check how they conquer neighborhoods. They come in there, they see a for sale, they get in there illegal, and when people say, ooh, they're making noise, and then they're running away. And then from there, there are hotels, there are nightclubs there's noise. So there are certain things that...
But it's a community, I think, right? Because I've seen most of them. They even have these Stokvel things where they contribute, like if maybe one of them in that community or the squad passes on, right? Then they will now do something, contribute, a certain amount to take them back home or things like that. I think that is a good thing. Yeah. Do you know about that?
No.
I've heard of this. Yeah.
Come on, there's nothing new about that. There's nothing revolutionary about that. We buried our own like that. We pop out money in the townships, even in the villages. We say this guy must go home. Hey, man, this situation is a very sorry situation. We do that, but we're not loud, blocking the traffic. These ones, they're blocking the traffic. Even in the CBDs, they're fighting the cop. Can't you have decency? Even their churches, you find that they're blocking. We said, guys, what happened to decency? Dancing and making noise and, stuff like that. Be a human being.
I've got a question here for Mike, right? Why do you think, Vele, the culture of, as a foreigner, perhaps you can let us know a little as South Africans, why is it that the culture of crime is celebrated or perpetuated, I've got a colleague of mine who asked if you ever buy a house in Soweto and you can't find tenants, tell me I can make it a brothel. Hey, do you ever need a brothel? It's not taboo to them. It's not a shock. It's just everyday life. What happened there?
I would say it goes back to the cultural or social and cultural norms of that particular group. So, do you know the nationality of the person?
He was from Cameroon.
Cameroonian? Okay. Cameroonians and Nigerians next door. These are neighbors. So in that particular instance, I would say it has to do with what they've normalized. So like Ike was saying, they brought prostitution primarily in South Africa.
And drugs.
So I would say there it's an example of people playing out their...
But who's suffering?
Sorry, just to interfere. When you speak of culture, it's not that everyone does everything. I'll give you an example. Black Americans. I always say Black Americans are Nigerians or West Africans. The tendencies are the same. In South Africa, when you're 35, it is a shame for you to be in a nightclub. But these guys, you check, both Jimmy Fox, Mike Tyson with his wife, nightclub. Kanye West, when they speak nightclub, drugs. Tonight at a certain age, you don't do drugs, South African guys. We don't do gangs. We don't hero worship prison life. But there are certain things that happen in another, country or culture or in other countries. But us here, because of maybe our values or history, how we've been socialized. But, it goes back to what the question that you've been asking. There are certain countries are known, predominantly doing a certain thing, which, it's not desirable. So, and we cannot keep quiet because we are introducing us to, something that, that we never accustomed to. Like in Joburg today, it's normal for people who are, owning saloons and whatever, shisanyama, to just spill water anywhere. We don't do that. We knew which, from our schools, wash your hands. You cannot be wiping your nose like that. You use a tissue, things like that.
But why crime, though? Why are foreigners known for crime, Mike? Why is it the prevalent thing? Why are they not known for working for something?
I think that comes with media and publication as well. That's what you see on the news, right? You don't hear about the surgeon who saved a South African kid's life, for example. So what you're shown is what
We do
shapes
get-
your frame of reference.
Now we do hear about fake doctors.
You see, bro. Here we go. So,
Yeah, but I think to just add on that, it's also lack of opportunity, right? Like how Ike was saying that in Nigeria, it is. Why are you laughing? The majority lives just below poverty, right? So now imagine now they come to South Africa for opportunities. When they get here, there aren't opportunities. And remember, most of them are illegal immigrants, right? So then what do? What do you
yes,
want
there's
to-
that as well. And I mean, South Africa is notoriously difficult to assimilate into. You know, the people who've done all the paperwork they need to do. I mean, I know someone specifically who's half German, half Lesotho, and a portion South African. I think her dad was who received South African citizenship. So she waited 5 years to receive a PR, permanent residence, even though the dad is actually a citizen. So there's stuff like that where people get into desperate situations, and unfortunately, certain things happen,
Then why
which are not
come?
condoned.
Then why come?
Because they're sold that South Africa has opportunities there.
So now that you're here and you see there's no opportunities, is it not advisable to go back?
It is, but
How?
I mean, how did you come?
swim with the crocodiles.
How do they come, Ike, and how do they go back? If they are.
I've seen how they come, even in, I still call it Transmart Airport. You know, some through tunnels, and you know, they find every means. You know, we've seen Pakistanis in side bags, and you know, and in South Africa, you know that after, you know, the fall of apartheid, we did away with borders. There are no more borders here. Mandela switched off to the electric fence. Mandela married Kasha Machel from Mozambique, and Kasha said, switch it off, Papa. It was a bedroom decision. So affected the whole country, because now between Swaziland, Mpumalanga, Mozambique, people just jump and say, I'm in South Africa. Hey, I'm in Swaziland. I mean, so it's like that, you know. Yeah, so it's unfortunate, you know, a country must have borders. And in the meantime, when you don't have borders, at least don't. So now, as we conclude, I'll ask you this question. Do foreigners think that South Africa is dangerous for them?
I would say yes, because even my personal experience, as much as I love South Africans, I've been here my whole life. So this is more home to me than Congo. I have been robbed twice, 3 times. One at gunpoint.
By other foreigners?
No, by South Africans. And they were speaking in Zulu.
No,
But
Zimbabweans, they also speak in Zulu, and most people will say, they're like celebrities, South African celebrities, they'll say, no, all rappers were South Africans, because they don't want to endorse the other side. But now, follow up. So if foreigners think that South Africa is so dangerous and unsafe, why can't they go? Why can't they go? Because it's not safe for you here, guys.
I
mean, if I'm in a place, I mean, Vietnam is not safe for me. I mean, the most logical thing is to go home.
I'm more South African than Congolese. And I love my people, both South
Who are your
African and both South African and Congolese. I'm here with 3 South Africans.
If South Africa plays Congo, World
I'm
Cup,
supporting South Africa. I'm here. If I'm in Congo, I'm supporting Congo. We take the good with the bad. Yes, I've been robbed 3 times, once at gunpoint, but my overall experience of South Africans, very friendly, hospitable, genuine to the large extent. So I'm with it. But you find your Ikes here and there, you know, they're difficult ones, but most of them are approachable.
no, we must ask these questions, and we must question people, because people, they say they are refugees, but they jumped all the countries. Check South Africa and Pakistan. They
took a
jumped
flight,
Egypt,
took
they
a
jumped,
flight.
and then you say, why can't you go to the nearest country of safety? They jump here and they come, you know, as men, no women, no children. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but anyway, With that, Mena,
Do you have foreign friends, bro? Like,
look,
even one?
I know a lot of foreigners. I used to have lots of foreigners. Now I don't have friends. I don't have a personal friend, that a guy that, this is my bestie, I go to this guy. Because I did away with nonsense a long time ago. So I don't have that guy, it is my bestie. And I used to say, when I meet a woman, you're my bestie. But then I realized that you cannot rely on women. They leave you on a band.
But
That's a separate podcast.
how would you feel now if one of your daughters was to bring you a foreign konyana?
For what good reason?
Yo.
I'll ask, listen.
They love.
No, you know why? Because foreigners, most of the time when they marry South Africans, it's for citizenship, opportunities. It's not pure love. And now,
You can't get citizenship now from marrying.
And now,
Like, you can't.
okay, it's fine. The permanent residence or whatever. Now, I ask myself, Guti, these guys, have they no shame? Because when you marry a woman, you cannot go live at a woman's place. You must take a woman. If you're a Mozambican, go with her to Mozambique. We don't do that in Abospan Code. Then you realize, here there's some dodgy businesses. I wouldn't dictate to my kids, but I'll advise them, caution them, because majority of the time, you've seen it, South African women being taken advantage of, especially Nigerians. We hear bad stories, about Jolofin. And we try to warn them. And they say, you South African men are jealous, you've got small dicks, it's not that deep. They've got all these terminologies, they insult us. And then when it backfires, they want to call us now to come to the rescue. And some of them, they've been turned into prostitutes. Some, they go to Nigeria, they come back with a coffin. Or in a coffin, rather. So, which is sad, but it's just that the stories are horrible that are happening. But I tell my kids, I would, hey, be careful out there, But at the end, or in the end, it's their decision. Yeah, it's their decision. But I've got trust issues, and it's based on something. It doesn't come out of, the vacuum.
And let's say that...
You don't hate people just because they're foreigners. It's what they do.
Oh, okay. So you don't have a problem with them. So right now, if maybe you were to be approached for employment by a foreigner, you'd take it.
Where? In South Africa?
Yes.
You come all the way from Burundi to employ me here. But I can work in partnerships. No, look, there are certain jobs that, come on. I'll ask lots of questions. There are certain jobs. I have a problem. Let me say this. I have a problem. The city of Johannesburg closing my water because maybe I skipped payment. And then when I go to negotiate, I find a Zimbabwean. I'm negotiating with a Zimbabwean about South Africa. No, there are certain things that there should be Congolese. It's the pride of the Congo. If I'm in Congo, there are certain things that I can only negotiate with Congolese. When it comes to certain privileges, there are certain jobs that foreigners shouldn't have. You cannot be in the intelligence, your country, as a foreigner, be a general, major general, like it's happening here. I've got guys that I know, some I went to school with, Nigerians, Zimbabweans, they're top government, in parliament, legislating, and what do you think gonna happen there, So I have a problem with it. There are certain key jobs, you must vet you. Check out, are we loyal to this country? Don't tell us tomorrow that when you go with Congo, when you're in Congo, you go with whatever. You must choose one team, Baba. But other than that,
you should choose one.
Yeah, choose one, Baba. You can't. Yeah, but other than that, hey, the same as closing. I'm not used to closing. I'm closing in my car. I just, when I'm closing, I switch off the music. But other than that, yeah, that was a discussion about xenophobia and me and Mike here. And I hope Mike, when he comes next time, yeah, he would have, I don't know, what he can contribute. He will say, you know, what is it that he can contribute, you know, in making sure that his brothers, you know, they don't come here and terrorize us here, you know. Yeah, because we thought that we were welcoming a tourist, I'm a terrorist.
You told me earlier you had a friend in Mozambique. Tell me about your friend.
No. The guy, I spent a lot of time now because when I was still starting my modeling, I spent lots of time, even guys from DRC. Majority of the guys that I knew from DRC, their fathers were ambassadors in other countries. The first generation of guys who came here, the main, Bo Christopher Pomozongo, Bo Bashwa, Bo Robert, most of them, they were diplomats from DRC. Very, very, very respectful people, you know, and they didn't contribute to a crime. They were students doing about BCom, and you know, that's the type of, you know, foreigner that I liked, you know, and they, you know, they did everything, you know, by the book. But unfortunately, you know, as the word, you know, was being spread across the continent, which is South Africa is a land of honey. Even the ones from the villages, criminals, they started to come here and to cause chaos. But, you know, I don't have issues when people come here to contribute positively, and especially if we've got the shortest skills in a particular area. You know, guys from Mozambique, there's a guy, I said he's from Mozambique, and he had his cousin, brothers. You know, in Mozambique, they call themselves Portuguese, but they were more like colored, you know. The last time I saw that guy, his name was Zé, and they took me to a club. It's a gay club in Hip, so it's called Boobs. I got into Boobs, Baba. I saw guys wearing dresses, bodybuilders, and I said, yeah, I'm not safe. They were dancing, Baba, you know. He took me to Boobs. I didn't know that they were gay. Yeah, I found out that day. They took me to Boobs. These guys in front, I said, no, I'm holding tight to my drink. I don't want to be spiked. And I left without, you know, a word. And I met Z. I think a few years later, I was in Joburg, they were doing a gay parade. Now he was gay. He was wearing a dress. He was drunk, you know, behaving like, you know, I said, chap cop. I made sure that he doesn't see me. He was wearing a dress and a bar. Remember, he used to wear like I'm a hippie, nice. All of a sudden, there is this guy. You know, he was my friend. Yeah, man, I can see with this guy's high, but he was wearing a mini dress. And in fact, yeah, his actions, yeah, he was the loudest. Okay, so I said, no. You know, and I visited them there. I was shocked the first time I went to Hillbrow, post 93, 94. Yes, I couldn't believe. A small flat. I got in there. There were people lying down, Baba. I mean, it's like they sleep in tents. I could not believe so many people in one flat, Baba. The flats were still nice there. The dining room. I couldn't believe. Maybe there were 40 people in that house. Maybe it's a person. You can see people there, 10, 11, and the others that side. It's like they're taking turns. And then they brought a big pot. You know, there was like beans there, you know, sugar beans, and the eating. I says, no, I had, you know, my lunch box. I couldn't eat, you know. Just walking up, and you find what type of people are these? You know, you don't wash hands. You come from the toilet, you're now dipping into the pot. So yeah, that was, you know, Hillbrow back in the days, the deterioration of Hillbrow when it still started. But it was still nice, you know. We used to go to our clubs there, Bo Arena, you know, for free of charge. But anyway, I mean, I used to go to these clubs, all of them. They knew me. I was that guy, you know. But anyway, yeah, here we are. So until we catch you next time, and me and Mike, this is Ike and Mike.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mike and the mechanics.
Next time.
Later, so. Peace and out. But subscribe, comment,
Like.
like,
Share.
share.